Friends, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Whether you're here in the nave, whether you're listening or watching on the live stream, we're really grateful to have you. If you want to send your emails or your questions to either governance@asburyfirst.org or questions@asburyfirst, we're checking both of those just so that we have a mechanism to be able to answer the questions that you have. The truth is, this is we don't have a big sort of like, hey, we need to make sure you know about this. This is really our way of honoring what we've said we wanted to do from the beginning of the new governance structure, which is just to honor some transparency, help make sure that you have a place to ask questions, and we'll do our best to answer them. There are some things that we thought would be helpful for you to hear, just to give an update on. We'll do a few of those up top, and then we'll move forward from there. But I thought we might start with a word of prayer. So if you'll join me in a spirit of prayer, that would be helpful. Gracious God, we ask your blessing upon us, your wisdom within us, and your grace to surround us. Remind us of our mission. Remind us of the vision that you have set before us, and help us in this conversation to have the conversation itself be a prayer. In Christ's name, amen. Certainly, one of the things that we recognize that has been happening throughout this fall is a return to dreaming as a congregation, and us starting to do some thinking about who we are and who God is calling us to be. You heard a series of, some of you I suppose heard, a series of dreaming this fall, a series of sermons on dreaming this fall. Many of you have put some dreams up on the board, either digitally or in person or here in the gathering center or in the community outreach center or up in the children's ministry area. We've gotten such good information and such good feedback from those dreams, but I hope every one of you will have an opportunity to add those to the list. One of the most exciting things is that we've pulled together a new dream team, a group of people representing all sorts of constituencies within the church to help us start to think a little bit about who we are and to dream together. And here as our chair of the new dream team is Kimberly Jones, and I invite Kimberly forward at this time to introduce herself. Kimberly comes to us. She's the president and CEO of Butler Till. You might recognize that building downtown as you're coming in this area, but she brings a wealth of knowledge and experience, especially in strategic planning. So, Kimberly, welcome.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure you said co-chair.
Co-chair.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kimberly Jones. As Stephen said, I'm the president and CEO of Butler Till. I've been a longtime member of this church and grew up in the United Methodist Church in San Antonio, Texas. My husband and I were married at Laurel Heights United Methodist Church in San Antonio, Texas. And when Stephen first approached me about this opportunity, and I am going to say opportunity, first I was a little, nervous, anxious, unsure of whether or not it was something that I wanted to take on. But when I reflected a little bit more, this is actually the type of work that I do every day, every year on behalf of my company and of all of our clients. And so when I was thinking about how I wanted to spend my time and give back to this congregation, I thought, what better way to take some of my professional experience and put it to use? And when I think about what we're asked to do with this dream team, it's really to check in on the church and to think about what's changed since the last time we did this work. And a lot has changed in the wake of the pandemic and everything else that's been going on within the church. And so I'm really excited to reflect and to spend time with many of you on thinking about what's changed and thinking about the future of this congregation and what we want to see out of the future of this church. And so if you have any questions or advice or suggestions, please reach out to me or to Stephen. I think we're going to announce the other members of our dream team, but we're really excited to take on this challenge, and I thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you. And yes, I did say co-chair. You're correct. Yes, sorry, I didn't mean to slip one past you there. Yeah, that's not how it works. Yes.
And I promised Kimberly that I would name off the other members of the dream team, which we're really excited about. Such a wonderful group from all parts of the congregation. Dave Allen, Yvonne Colton, Patrick Fulford, Ewan Joseph, David Kennedy, Christina Cariving, John Messenger, Peter Au, Don Reedy, and Beth Rice. So we have an absolutely wonderful, a dream of a team.
And I want to be very clear that the people on the dream team are not the only dreamers in this congregation. They're simply the ones charged for this moment in time with listening to the dreams, receiving the dreams, and then reflecting back to this congregation all that is happening and making sure that we're listening in the right way. So there's both listening and there's then also hearing. So we're going to do our best to make sure that throughout this process you'll be hearing from us and in all of the strategic direction for the church. It's a very exciting time.
I think most of you know me. I'm Beth Wilkins. I chair the governance board. Just want to give you 3 or 4 quick hits of some of the things that we've been up to and then leave it open for questions, concerns, discussion. First, at our last meeting, the columbarium was approved and we promised we'd come back with an update. And there's a lot exciting to report. Commitments are ahead of plan. 60 niches would cover the cost of phase 1, and 43 are fully committed for a total of a little over $190,000. That means at the very earliest that we'd have to borrow anything to bridge the final construction costs is the end of 2024, but we've already raised more than 2/3 in commitments, and I have every confidence that that will continue. The governance board also did approve the applicable terms and conditions, so those are available to anyone who's interested. And a question came about how are niches going to be assigned. Basically, as soon as the final drawings and plans are completed, then the assignment process will start and they will be offered in the order in which people signed up for them to choose their space. Just a quick note on another note, as most of you have seen, the Community Outreach Center is in hyperdrive in August, and it's grown in September, but August were 990 meals, 533 people assisted in the storehouse, 129 showers, 41 loads of laundry, 80 bags of groceries, 38 bikes repaired, 20 haircuts, and bountiful community garden deliveries for AME Zion, Grocery Bag, and DCC. And it's still growing. I mean, what a testament to this congregation. It's pretty wonderful. The last, not the last, but among the things that the governance board does is we monitor our financial condition. It is really hard at this time of year because, as many of you know, churches receive the bulk of their revenue in the last month of the year or 2 months of the year. So we do our best to project as we go along, but it's really, it's in part our best guesstimates. We have some very good news that our congregational giving is strong and ahead of plan. That's offset a little in timing because we've sadly had the deaths of several large pledgors. We understand the pledges are going to be honored, but they may not necessarily come in this year. But we're very pleased with the level of giving at this point. We do have some headwinds. We have some unanticipated extra maintenance items and cleaning personnel costs due to turnover that we've had to backfill. Property usage is a little behind projection. Grants timing may lag, but continuing to submit 2 applications monthly, and we'll just see how those materialize as the year ends. The Community Outreach Center is actively meeting with grant makers, giving tours, and a lot of work is going on there. And longer term, we're facing some significant capital issues, such as the need to replace education wing windows. So we have headwinds, but we also have the strength of this congregation. And the key to overcoming those is the continued amazing generosity of everybody who's involved with Asbury First, both now and in 2024 pledges. Those are some of the just highlights of what we've been talking about. We've talked about a lot more, and I'd be happy to answer questions. My partners in crime are here, around me, and would be happy to respond as well.
The only question that I saw come in had to do with the changes in staffing related to communications, and I can just give you an update on where we are. As some of you know, our communications director, Sarah Brubaker, her husband got a job in St. Louis and has, as of last week, moved there. We are in active recruitment and have been doing interviews for a new director of communications. This is one of the challenges we're facing, and as we're looking towards 2024, this is one of the areas that we'd like to expand. To just give you a sense of this, when we hired Sarah, she started in the January of 2019. Thank goodness she had a full year in before the pandemic hit. Since the pandemic, that position has just grown and grown and grown. And one of the challenges we're facing is figuring out we can't have one person do that job anymore. And so we're trying to figure out from a staffing perspective, how do we break that job into two, having one person in charge of the strategy and strategic priorities in terms of communication, and one person in terms of in the weeds, doing the graphic design and the bulletin and those pieces. That's going to take finding the right people, and it's also going to take figuring out how to make that happen in the budget, but it is also imperative for us as we find our way forward as a congregation, because the truth is everything we do right now has to go through communications in some capacity. So that is where we are. We ask your patience and grace as we try and find our way. It's going to be a little clunky for the next couple of weeks at least, as we do our very best to make everything work, but we can't make everything look as nice as it did with Sarah. So we are so grateful for all that she did for us, but we are going to find our way forward one step at a time, and we appreciate all of your grace in that. I don't have any other questions right now that have come from online, but I know Paula is here with the microphone if there are questions that people have from the congregation.
Thanks, Paula. The capital program, we have a line of credit that we're using to cover the expenses that haven't been covered by pledges received. I was wondering where that line of credit stands and what it's costing us, of course, given that interest rates are substantially higher now than when we started the program.
I think I can answer, and I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I think we have roughly $1 million out on the line of credit. These are the pledges for the outreach center. That's all. Is that right, John?
We owe, the balance right now is $894,000, and it's at 8.5%.
Okay. And we're continuing to just look at alternatives around, are there ways we can try to handle that? But obviously, the sooner those pledges come in, the more interest we save.
Yeah, so that is, for those who may not be as familiar with the financial pieces, this is people who we have pledges for the full amount of the Community Outreach Center, but there are those, as people are paying on their pledges, Emily and I are making our pledge over quite some time so that we could make a larger pledge. But it takes year by year, there's a gap there between what we have in hand and what we have spent. So I would say this, if you are in a position where you're able to pay off that pledge early, of course that does nothing but help us. And I think we have really smart financial minds who are doing a lot of thinking around how might we save as much interest as possible, because we certainly didn't anticipate the interest being as high as it is in this, though we are still okay in terms of overall coverage for the pledges.
When I come to church, it looks like the church is refilling. This morning was great. How are we doing with youth numbers? High school program downstairs, maybe beside the musical, but numbers, and then kids in the Sunday school program.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So it is the case that we're starting to see more and more people on Sunday mornings, which is really heartening, I will say. For me, for sure, it is nice to look out and see people in there. I would say that the children's ministry programs have grown substantively this fall, especially in music, as you saw, though all of those programs have almost doubled. The youth program has also increased this fall as well, even outside of the musical. We've gotten several new families that have come in. But it is also the case that that group, especially the current high schoolers, they were the ones that lost the opportunity in the pandemic to really make the kind of long-term bonds, and we haven't seen everybody back that was here before. That's not to say there's no one, and we have a lot of kids participating in the youth program through the musical as well. But if you're asking outside of the musical, that too has grown, though certainly not at the exponential rate we would hope.
Just to finish with that, honestly, with the Dream Team, are we looking right now at programs and how to get those kids, if not back, different ones?
Sure. So the Dream Team has not yet met for the first time to begin their work, so I don't want to speak on their behalf, but certainly that is part of the dreams that have been shared. I've seen it several times on the Dream Board, and I know that that will be a topic of conversation. As it is, I mean, let me give you a little perspective here. I was just spent a week and a half ago with some of the large church ministers from around the country. Every single one of them has noted that they have lost about a third of their membership in the last 3 or 4 years. So they're down about a third, and there are places, and so that said, we are doing, it's heartening to go into those moments because, you know, as someone who's not really happy until we're setting up chairs in the narthex, you know, it's easy to get disheartened, and then you recognize that we're actually in a healthier place than many churches right now. But no church has it easy right now. We're all trying to figure it out. But absolutely, that will be a topic of conversation as we find our way forward.
Just a comment regarding that particular point. I have a number of friends that I speak with on the phone, or I have lunch with them, or whatever, and they're telling me that it's too easy to get up in the morning on Sunday and get dressed for church. They're in their pajamas, and they're having a coffee, and they don't know when they'll return. And I wonder if we're making it too easy for them.
Yeah. I mean, Richard, I think it's a really interesting time to find ourselves in because there are those that are in Rochester and still online. And maybe that's because of some mobility challenges or any number of things that might prevent them from coming in person. And there are others who are in town, able to be here and yet prefer online. I think one of the places that we're just trying to figure out as a congregation, and certainly this has been one of the main topics of conversation amongst the governing board as we've gone through this last year, is how do we make sure that we honor the church that we are? And it means that, you know, I said at the beginning of the pandemic, we may never again have more people in our pews than we do online. And my prayer is, again, folding chairs in the narthex still, and still more people online. But it's just a different kind of world, and it's all of us have to think a little bit about how do we remember over and over again that we're not the only ones? How do we make it, give people reminders that it's valuable to, you know, be able to extend your hand and meet somebody and see somebody, and that there are some things that you can't get online. But for those for whom that is the only way to connect, we would rather have people connecting than not. And then it's just a matter of figuring out how do we help make it as easy as possible for people to come and then not make them feel guilty when they can't be here. Yeah. I see Kathy has her hand up down here. Thanks, Paula.
I'd just like to add, Greg and I were very happy staying in bed and watching the service online every Sunday. And I would make sure that I would put in there that we were watching online so we could be included in the tally. But at some point, it became an issue for us to get up and get out of the house. And it was only through my pushing that we did that, and it's been a wonderful transition. for us to be back in the congregation and to be amongst people and our peers. But I think not only because it's easy, but I think that maybe people don't feel safe yet from the pandemic. And I think that we are in different times now. We are very much in different times, and we just need to be open and accept that not everybody is feeling safe enough to come back to church. Thanks.
Yeah, I think we just want to heap grace upon grace upon grace in these moments, and to say to everybody, we are glad to have you connect with Asbury First, however you are connecting with Asbury First. We also know how nice it is to be able to see people face to face. So it's really it's a really challenging moment to know who we are as a church, which is part of the reason for the dreaming. Brian.
Hi, everyone. And to piggyback off of that, I think that we're all extremely grateful for the advances in technology that have given us the live stream and for that flexibility. I'm just curious, and this is not necessarily a pointed question anywhere, but maybe somewhere to dream along the way is how we can better connect with those people who are worshiping on live stream, perhaps even in the area through some sort of visitation ministry. And I don't want to add anything to anyone's plate, particularly our ministers of visitation.
Absolutely, I think it's important. And one of the ways that you all could be helpful, and you who are physically here and you who are virtually here with us this morning, is help us know, help us connect with people. I mean, you are the church, right? So a visit from the church is, sure, as the ministerial team, we are happy to go and see people and sit with people and talk with people. But you are the church as well, and if you're willing to go and sit down and talk to someone or just pick up the phone, one of the hardest parts of this moment is because some people are online, it's really hard to know if they're still with us or not with us. Does that make sense, right? Before, we were able to say, like, okay, there's Brian's pew, and he hasn't been here in a couple of weeks. And even then it was hard to remember, but now it's almost impossible because I don't know if Brian just is in his PJs at home, or if I'm just picking on you, Brian, but if you're just at home, or if you've felt disconnected, and so any way that you can help us connect with people, know that our desire is to be connecting with everybody who is here. One question that just came in from online is from Jim Carter. What is the status of our relationship with Gleason and the use of our shared parking lots? Some of you heard me lament last spring that because of the pandemic, Gleason has a much smaller workforce than it did prior to the pandemic, which meant that they no longer share our parking lot, which meant that they didn't want us using their little lot during the week and keeping that gate open. Also, with the spate of car thefts, they had several stolen from their parking lot, which meant that they had to close out that lot. And so we've had to work pretty hard to strike up a different kind of relationship with Gleason, which we have, and I think it's gotten much better, where every Sunday morning we are able to open up that gate, and throughout the week when we have special events. But it does make it incumbent upon each of us, as we know about a major event on our campus, we do have to take an extra step now of asking for permission to open that gate before we do it. So if you are leading an event on campus and you anticipate quite a few people being here to use more than just our main parking lot, it's usually they've been great about it, but we do have to ask, and so it is a bit more frustrating than what it used to be, but that is the nature of life. Yeah. Other questions?
Stephen, I had a question. I've been a member of Asbury for about a year, and I guess I'm wondering about the makeup of the Dream Team, what if there's a diversity in generational representation on that committee, because I don't see a lot of millennials sitting here today or younger, and I know that I'm very invested in the future of our church, so I guess I'd hope that millennials and Xers would be very well represented on that Dream Team.
Yes, and the answer is yes. So we did our very best to try and have representatives who are new members and not so new members. Some who are, so in other words, people who have been a part of the church for a long time and people who are brand new to the church. Also some younger members and some not as young members in the church who are able to be a part of that and offer voices. We also have been pretty thoughtful about diversity in terms of sexual orientation, in terms of ethnicity, and just trying to pay attention to who's here, those who are single, those who have children, those who are active, and those who have just kind of come in and found their way. I think we've done a nice job in trying to find representation that way. But the good thing is that you are still a part of it, whether you're on that team or not. We would love to have your insight. And so we can talk more about what that looks like, but certainly through the Dream Board, but also through conversation. Thank you. It's a good question.
Are there any updates on like the way forward and any of the changes that were recommended as part of that?
Yes, so the way forward is the outreach ministry strategic plan that came about that was offered to us in the spring and that was approved by the congregation. I think we are taking steps, and I know Pat might be able to speak more to some of the implementation of that, but each of the aspects of that plan are being implemented to the best of our ability at this time. Certainly it's in mind as we move into the broader dreaming as a congregation. It's certainly there. One of the main things that's happening right now is, you'll remember in the new Way Forward document, that is a move from a change in how we organize our outreach ministry committees and organizations, and that's something that both the nominations committee has in mind and that we've been in conversation about. So yes, it's moving forward.
Stephen, I wonder if you can give us any update on the split within the church itself.
The denomination, not
yes,
not Asbury First. Yes. Whew. Yeah. So listen, one of the things that has become increasingly apparent to me in the last couple of weeks, especially having spent quite a bit of time of late with my colleagues from around the country, is just how painful the split in Methodism is. And we are in many ways sheltered from it because we are a congregation that has been really clear about who we are. But there are many, many congregations right now who never took the time to have the conversation about who they believe we are, and in particular around human sexuality. So there is a sunset date on a special provision that was added to the Book of Discipline in 2019 that would allow people to disaffiliate over disagreements regarding human sexuality. There's a sunset date on that at the end of December for that. And so churches have been in this mad rush in this last year to vote to leave. We have had in the Upper New York Conference, I think it was the grand total is 119 churches that withdrew over issues of human sexuality over the course of the last year. That's a painful divide, but if you look at my friends who are serving in Texas or especially in Alabama, they have had something like 2/3 of their churches leave. And that, you can imagine, is not just a problem for the Methodist Church in that area, it's a problem for those Methodists in the area who are sitting in their congregation and feeling like it is no longer the place that they knew. You know, we have firsthand experience for some who have lost their parents have lost their home church and had to find someplace new, the place that they had invested their time, their effort, their energy, and their money. And it's going to be, it's a really painful moment. I have spent much of my time in the last couple of months working on denominational conversations around this particular issue and trying my best to be a voice for inclusion and trying to figure out how to be what's called a lighthouse congregation. We have officially, as of last Monday, adopted a resolution to become a lighthouse congregation, which is just making it clear that anybody who has found themselves a little lost following this split, we're a place that you can find some solace. It's sort of that Jesus, come to me, all you who are weary and carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. But it is a really painful time, and talking to some friends in ministry, they have had horrific experiences in their churches, including things like death threats and threats to their families for not leading them out of the denomination at this time. So every time I hear that, it makes me take a deep breath and say, I'm really grateful to be where I am. And I'm grateful for this church, and for as hard as maybe it has been over the last decade to have conversations around human sexuality, and for the few people that we lost along the way, we've gained many more, and more than anything else, we're able to go into this moment and to be a kind of bright light and a beacon of hope for those people that are looking for someplace right now, and for that I'm really, really grateful. Just to close off the denominational piece, the denomination meets at the end of April, at the beginning of May, for our general conference. That is technically the 2020 general conference, postponed till 2024. And it is the place where I pray that we will finally be able to make some progress. And I'm doing everything in my power from a national organizing perspective, international organizing perspective, to make sure we walk away from that general conference with substantive change at the denominational level.
Stephen, just a quick question. I'm assuming that the general denomination is working on making sure that those churches who have disaffiliated will not have representatives at that meeting?
So this is the complicating piece, and as you know, I've raised this at every large group gathering. There are those that are leaving the denomination, whose churches have left the denomination, but they have transferred to another church just so that they can still vote at the general conference, even though they represent a different, even though they would have left with their church. That is a really cynical and disheartening thing to recognize. So there are lots of challenges happening right now within the denomination, and it is really ugly. Do we have people in our conference whose churches are leaving or who are planning to leave the denomination but are still serving at the on our delegation? I'm not sure that it's appropriate for me to answer that question. I think I feel like I just need to say no comment to that.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to say one thing as I'm hearing lots of conversation. And as you can imagine, there's lots of conversation that happens in the Katie household regarding so many of the things we're talking about. When you have a good thing in your life, it is worth sharing. If you love your church, it is worth talking about and inviting someone to sit beside you in the pew or to sit in your home and participate in virtual worship. I say this from my heart because it deserves to be stated. We have a good thing at Asbury First. I love this church. My children love this church. And we have something, and you've probably heard this term, it's called NOFA, a non-optional family activity. Okay, this is a term that's getting lots of street cred as we talk about adolescent development, but it also has some relevance in adult lives, as we heard from Jackie's sermon today. What is God asking us to do? Share our church. Love is something if you give it away. So I say this, it's a statement, not a question, but let's share. Let's share what we have here in all the ways that we can and be a beacon of light for this denomination and this city that so desperately needs it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Then if there are no other questions at this time, and let me make sure that I am looking, from Diana Carter. When might we move forward on making 1050 fully accessible? That is the last building on our campus. It is absolutely on my mind and on my heart, and recognizing that that will have to be a part of this next phase of a capital campaign. Certainly, if there is somebody out there right now who is willing to give to help make that possible, we could start right away. But the truth is, we're going to have to raise some money in order to do that, and just the way inflation is working right now, it will be more than we originally thought. But we have to make all of our buildings accessible, and that has to be a part of our next capital campaign, and we will be looking at that within the next, within the next year. We're going to have to be thinking about how to do that. So I am with you, Diana, and for all of those who might have any mobility challenges that prevent them, it is not fair that we do not have, and it's not equitable to not have all of our buildings fully accessible. So again, that'll be a part of our campaign. It's something we're thinking about, but it is also possible earlier if you are a person who thinks, I might like to help make that happen. Come and talk to me. I'm happy to help you. Is there anything else from...
Thank you all for all the support, and we do appreciate lots of you stop some of us with comments or feed things to us, and it's really helpful as we think through things. I realized that as I started out and kind of gave the quick hits, some of them were more administrative things, but we continue to look at what we call our 3 big questions as a governance board. One of them is, how do we emerge from the pandemic? These whole questions of connection, diversity and inclusion. So we're trying not to lose sight of those things as well. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you, friends. And as a way to close, can we stand and sing the doxology? Oh, and David's even willing to play for us. Thank you.